Okie dokes, we are live. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Holy Humanist. I never look at the camera. I should look this way. Welcome back to Holy Humanist. Sorry, by the way, apologies, first of all, that the timings were a bit mixed up for this. My day at the office just completely got away from me. And then Dale and I, who I'm about to introduce, I literally just gave it away. I was going to say we have a very special guest, but I just gave it away. Anyway, no, I'm sure a lot of you don't know him, but as of today, that will change. But anyway, so yeah, apologies if the stream had some random timings associated with it. We had some time zone issues, but we're ready to rock and roll now. So without further ado, I'm going to invite a very special guest who actually was interviewed by Gulzar Elia, who is very active in the Urdu community when it comes to ex-Muslim activism. And yeah, I just thought, why not? Well, you'll hear all about Dale's experiences himself. I won't give anything away. But yeah, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dale, who also goes by his Twitter handle, which is very infamous, InfiDale. So yeah, welcome to Holy Humanist.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for being here. And apologies to you as well for all that palaver.
All good.
But yeah, no, so I'm excited for my audience to get to know you, actually. I've been looking forward to this all week. So I think the best place to start would literally be the very beginning, really. If you could kind of just give everybody an introduction about, just really who you are, how you grew up, your background, and kind of how you ended up on this side of YouTube and being passionate about, countering religion with rationality and things like that. Because I've just heard you in that one interview, to be honest, and your passion came across massively through just the way you speak, the way you articulate your thoughts, and then I've seen your Twitter page. So you're very much in this game now. So yeah, just tell us about Dale.
Okay, sure. Well, I will tell you about Dale and how Dale, I guess, became InfiDale.
Yes.
But basically, I grew up in a very non-religious household. We were Jewish by heritage and by a little bit of practice, but it was very much reformed in America. And it was, to the point where we acknowledged our heritage. I was Jewish. I was labeled Jewish. To my friends, I was Jewish, and most of them were Christian or Catholic. So I was the Jewish kid. But other than that, there was no real Judaism in my life other than, we would celebrate the holidays. But I also, this might sound funny, but I also celebrated Christmas. So I would have celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas. I would have a menorah and a Christmas tree at my house.
You got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, well, or the worst.
Or the worst.
Jinx. So depending on perspective, right?
Yes, indeed.
But looking back at that, I think that gave me, a little bit of an open basis for I wasn't fully indoctrinated and drilled into my head of what to believe. Just, well, we kind of believe, and there's a little of this and a little of that. So then at 12, my father and my mother and father divorced when I was a baby, when I was 1 year old, literally. And I grew up with my mother, single mother, only child, and that was my life. I knew my father, but we didn't have a close relationship. When I was 12, his wife at the time wanted his son to get a bar mitzvah, which anybody doesn't know, it's the Jewish rite of passage for a male. And the reason they wanted me to go through my bar mitzvah is because every good Jewish boy has a bar mitzvah. So even though that I wasn't practicing and the religion meant nothing to me, the title, they wanted me to have the title and to, be celebrated with their tradition, their family. So I went to Hebrew school. True story. Shortly before, basically Hebrew school for me was training for my bar mitzvah, learning the Hebrew language so I could read it properly at my bar mitzvah. But
so is this just enough to perform on the day, or is this because they want you to? Okay.
It's like they're cramming for a test, which is silly, because if it's you're teaching me something that's important that you want me to learn, you don't just teach me how to say these words. And they were literally teaching me, at one point I couldn't do the Hebrew. I was really crappy at it. So they had me read it phonetically. They had it spelled out in English next to the Hebrew letters. I'm tricking God. What's happening at that point? When I'm saying at my bar mitzvah, maybe I'm tricking the people out watching me, but I'm really tricking God. So I think that was another message, to me.
Yeah.
But just before that, I was, and this is a true story, kicked out of Hebrew school for telling Jewish jokes.
What?
Yeah. Now, short term, they got me reinstated right away. But for a few days, I was suspended from Hebrew school for telling Jewish jokes. Yeah.
It must have been a damn good. Can we hear it later, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay. Let's see how it goes.
It's a little edgy even for me.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, of course, edgy enough to get you kicked out.
I'll
Anyways.
definitely share. I'll definitely, if you know me, I'm fine sharing edgy. But then, so after that, Judaism was pretty much a choice for me. Like, do you want to be part of this? Do you not? And I chose not. Didn't make much sense to me. I didn't see any value in it necessarily. I believed in God, but like to me, it was a loose concept. I believe in a God. What that meant to me, it was maybe there's somebody who controls things. And I remember I played a lot of sports when I was a kid growing up, and I played basketball. And I remember playing basketball, and this is the God's honest truth. When I was playing basketball, and I would not foul somebody, but they would call a foul, and they would get to shoot their free throws, I would think God will make them miss them. But I thought this in my head, like God will not. So like that was the extent of my religious faith, that God will punish my enemies on the basketball court. Like that's how I felt, and some part of me believed it, because I remember, thinking justice will be served. But now as an adult, I know that that's not true unless we do something about it.
Exactly. Precisely.
So that was pretty much my Judaism. There wasn't a lot of in-depth religion. When I started questioning religion, like other than, I didn't care much about it, but I didn't question it. I wasn't non-religious. I was just, there's maybe a God, who knows? Right. That was my life from 13 till my 20s. And then 9/11 happened. And for me, that was my, beginning of my wake up moment. I was in my early 20s. Yeah, early 20s, early to mid. And it didn't make sense to me after 9/11 that everybody in my country was so distraught. And I mean, I'll just, say to anybody who doesn't know what I'm speaking of, September 11th, when I say 9/11, the Twin Towers in New York going down. And everybody in my country was so distraught, and people came together, and it seemed like there was a bonding, but the bonding wasn't over defending our country. I'm sorry, the bonding wasn't, it was just more of a, I guess, American tribalism that I saw. And I went, well, I am happy, proud, to be part of this, but there's a reason this happened, and we kind of need to think about that. When I heard people talking about the reasons, everybody was avoiding religion. It seemed to me like they were avoiding religion. It was there's bad people that do bad things. It's not because of the religion. It's just like, it's coincidence almost, and I kind of knew it a little bit enough to know that there's some nasty things in those writings, that there's a reason that people would believe that jihad was the thing to do. So it wasn't illogical to think that could be the reason, but everybody was pushing away from it. So I didn't understand that. And then in response, when the leader of my country at the time, George W. Bush, decided to do these go get these evildoers, and he said, he told his country, told us that God spoke to him and said to go after, well, it wasn't the rape. Anyway, I won't talk about the actual war itself, but, God said to retaliate. So God, Yahweh, told you to retaliate against Allah? Like, that's what's going on in my head. And I'm thinking, do they not realize that these are similar God concepts connected through the Abrahamic God? And they didn't. And that was what made me go nuts. They didn't. People were saying, my God is better than your God. And it wasn't about prophets at the time, because you could do the Jesus and Muhammad thing all you want. But when you're talking about the ultimate being, creator deity, that's the same one from the Abrahamic religions. So I didn't really understand. And then I started looking into religion, and that led me to the Four Horsemen. If anybody doesn't know, they're considered the Four Horsemen of atheism. And it would be Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, and Richard Dawkins. And should have been Ayaan Hirsi Ali, but she wasn't able to be there for understandable reasons that we fight against these days. But that was kind of my introduction to atheism as a concept. Not just I don't believe in God, but like there's reasons for that. Not, you know what I mean? It's not just like a yes or no guess. There's reasons. And I started seeing all the bad things that I saw that they thought came from religion. I didn't have any background in the sciences at all at that time, at all. I wasn't a good student growing up. I didn't care about my education. I didn't go to college after high school. I have a high school education. I have an American high school education, you know, and I look back at it, and for what that's worth, I don't know. I learned my ABCs, and I learned how to do, you know, addition and subtraction and multiplication. After that, I didn't learn too much, you know, until after high school. Even the required reading, I didn't just not do extracurricular reading. I didn't do the required reading when I was in school. To me, that was a nuisance. So I would, like, you know, find a way around the tests. And I was reasonably intelligent, so I could do okay on tests and pass, but just not care about any of the actual homework or things of that nature.
I bet you read a hell of a lot more now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's night and day. But back then, partying, for me, it was about fun. It was about being popular, you know, about having friends and partying. And that was my life growing up. So like from my teens until my mid-20s, that was all I did. And it was still that way until my 30s, until about 30. But after that, after the Four Horsemen sparked my interest, I then started saying, well, I agree with the things they're saying. Like, they make sense, but why? You know, I wanted to figure out why evolution made sense. So I looked, you know, into evolutionary biology with Richard Dawkins stuff. And then I wanted to know why the neurology behind it made sense. They put the right people together. So then I looked at Sam Harris, you know, went into the neuroscience end of things. And then I wanted to know philosophically why it made sense. So you have Daniel Dennett and some of his stuff. So at least it gives you a base if you don't really have any background in the sciences, of a little of this, a little of that, you know, and you piece it all together. I left out Christopher Hitchens. By the way, see, he's not my God.
He's one of my favorites. Please don't miss him out.
I was just looking into the camera. For all of you religious people who say that Christopher Hitchens is the atheist God, I almost left him out. So now, because he was a wonderful human who contributed greatly to society, but I do not worship, I will add him in. You know, that got me into the politics and the history of things. So they really had a good group of people, you know, with different backgrounds, but all centered on this logic, reason, critical thinking leads you away from these mythologies that are causing harm. If they weren't causing harm, it would be a different story. But, you know, that's like I say, 9/11 sparked me and I saw them causing harm. So that was the beginning of what I consider my intellectual journey. Okay. And at that point, it started with purely, and I say this loud and proudly and tell everybody, I started digging down rabbit holes on YouTube. I started, you know, saying, okay, well, in evolutionary biology, what can I see? And over and over. And that eventually did lead to books. But even now, I can say, you know, honestly, probably half to 3/4 of my education comes from YouTube, literally. Now I eventually branched out into books because I wanted to get more in depth than a little, you know, 20-30 minute video can show me. So I started reading, and right now at this point, I would consider myself, I'm a very layman in all of the sciences, but I'm so interested in them that I've learned enough that I can participate in the conversations. I didn't know that until I came to Twitter. So what got me here, like, I guess the closing to that, what got me to here, to YouTube, speaking to you now, was that I came to Twitter very, 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 very late. I'm sorry to everybody and myself. I came to Twitter very late after last American election, because all of my friends and family who I'd been very close with growing up, because I was a partier, because we were fun, started going down a weird path of whether it was the Donald Trump, you know, QAnon America type lies, or whether it was the holistic, I'm going to stick a crystal up my ass and cure COVID, or, you know, there was just so much stuff where I was just very, what's happening to my friends? And what was happening is we were being separated by knowledge, by our, you know, you hear the phrase knowledge is power, and it truly is, but I don't think I realized that until the pandemic hit in America. The pandemic and the last political, you know, the political stuff we're still going through with the far right pushing their Christian ideologies on the country. And so it went from I don't agree with this. It doesn't make sense. It's silly. To people are being hurt on a daily basis. And whether it's, Salman Rushdie or whether it's 9/11, I mean, you can obviously go back with religion to atrocities through centuries, or if it's just or people living under Sharia, or in America today, and which we just, I think that's kind of a wake up for people, like why this is becoming a bigger thing now, because America always thought of itself, a lot of us did, we were trained that way, as like untouchable and above the, mythological type stuff. But 70% of my country labels themselves Christian. 30-something% of them label themselves 30% label themselves of the country evangelical. That's believing it word for word. Yeah. So when I started seeing that, I went, wait a minute. They don't just believe in a God concept. They believe that the sea split in half and there was a talking snake and that we came from Adam and Eve and the earth is 10,000 or less years old. Or Muhammad flew to the moon and split it in half on, Al-Barak, and, or like we talked about on the last podcast I did, the stone taking Moses' clothes away and running away with it. It can be, it's silly and we can laugh about that stuff, but when people believe it,
literally verbatim,
you end up making when you base your life decisions on irrational decisions, you're going to make horrible life decisions. Like that's just a natural conclusion. So all of my friends went by the wayside, and I was really losing friends and family left and right. And I started saying, I care more about what's right. I started caring less about individual people I was friends with and caring more about humanity.
The fire was sparked.
Yeah. And my friends were caring, dude, you don't want to have fun? Who cares about the pandemic? Come party with us. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, if you do that vaccine, you're going to turn into a lizard person. And 5G is going to, give you cancer. And all of these anti-scientific pseudoscience things that it just made me feel like I have more to talk about, more to do. Somebody said, try Twitter. You'll find more like minds. Yeah. So I stopped saying all the things. I mean, I'm still saying the same stuff a little, like a year later with a little more juice to it, but now I'm speaking to people who want to hear what I have to say instead of speaking to my friends and family I grew up with who just want to party and just want to have fun. And a lot of them aren't bad people. They're just not well educated, well informed, and they don't care about that. So it's almost like a willful ignorance at that point. And at that point, you're allowed to do your thing, like go have fun. I love you. But I can't be part of it because I just see that as dangerous. And I see my friends spreading lies and rumors that are hurting people. They might not think they're lies, but they're spreading untruths that are hurting people. And they didn't care about the consequences. They were very stubborn about it. I was let me show you through physics why 5G can't destroy your DNA. Yeah. They didn't care. They just went, no, I heard it on Newsmax or where, Q told me or Trump told me.
Yeah.
And people started drinking bleach, and it got silly.
Yeah.
So then I came to Twitter. I started finding people who, instead of telling me "F you," I don't like you, you're a bad person, get out of here, they started clapping and saying, "Give me more, talk more, share more. I love what you have to say." So it was like night and day. And then I went, okay, there's something here, and I just started tweeting. 11 months ago. Somebody who goes by the handle Neil the 604 Atheist, who does deconversion stories, basically like kind of what we just did here, like what made you leave religion, or what made you go from someone who didn't care about theology to someone who considers themselves, and I openly call myself an anti-theist. I am openly against religion, and just to clear that up because people always confuse this. Anti-theist is a self-description. I am not anti-theists. I'm not against theists. I'm anti-theism. And that's a huge difference.
Big difference.
Yeah. It's almost like the old Christian trope, hate the sin, love the sinner.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about that. I don't like Islam. I'm fine with Muslims. I don't like Christianity. I'm fine with Christians. And people usually can't separate those. And that's what turns me into evil, devil monster guy. Yeah.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. Simple.
So that's kind of what happened. I went on Neil's show. I did that. And when I got done, I went, wow, that was fun. And it didn't feel like I was nervous when I went to do it. Now, when I do these things, I'm not nervous. I'm talking to people who feel similarly,
Yeah.
or who don't, and I feel pretty strongly about my views, so I'm okay. I'm not worried about kickback. And I started sharing, and I started people saying, your message is helping me. I do a lot of stuff with spaces on Twitter, where I started guiding some people and talking to people. I did a couple that the ex-Muslim community became part of, just incidentally. It just worked itself out, and we had a few nights where, I forget what I was saying, but like I just went on a little rant about Islam, because my country doesn't. In general, people from America shy away from the Islam thing so much, and that's been confusing me since 9/11.
Yeah. I actually wanted to just talk about that, because hearing your story, there were so many like moments there where your story and my story essentially are so remarkably similar that it's scary. Honestly, when you said those things, like every time I read the Quran after the first time that you're supposed to read it in Arabic, which I also kind of cheated through because I'm reading in a language I don't care about, but I was like, is God not going to punish me because I'm just skipping 2 pages and folding it there and saying, let's pick up from here so I can get over with like this quicker? Because it's not fun sitting with a Quran teacher who's just it's just not.
That was enough.
Anyway, exactly. So after that, any other time I would read the Arabic. I can read Arabic, but it was just so much easier to read it in the English transliteration of it in Arabic, right? And I was like, surely if like this Quran was revealed in this language and God is okay with everyone, like what is does he knows I'm skipping pages, he knows I'm reading it in English and faking the Arabic, surely, like. But then there was
he's omnipotent and omniscient, but if you put your hands over it, he can't see.
He can't see. Yeah, exactly.
He with a capital H can't see.
He with a capital freaking H, yes. But also after that, 9/11 for me as well. I was actually like living in Saudi Arabia at the time, and I was really young. I was in high school, and the whole life, like the entire national security situation in Saudi Arabia changed as a result of 9/11, and there was a direct impact on us because we lived in a very expat compound, which had a lot of the US military presence on it as well. So I mean, everybody had to start getting like bulletproofed windows and having like terrorist evacuation plans, and the school started having terrorist plans, and the entire compound security just was maximized. Like they had sandbags and machine guns. Our school buses would get checked for metal detectors. It went into like some weird lockdown for a while. And again, what I'd see on the news, I was like, surely the people they claim to be from the same religion that I am, but how can they go down this path and claim that? Because I need to now distance myself from that. And I'm just like, a young girl in high school having this kind of like just these inner thoughts. And then I see my parents kind of reacting to that as well and trying to make sense of it. And they kind of veered towards more, because we were brought up Sunni as well, but they kind of started looking more into like Rumi and Sufism and God is love and love is God, and maybe there's a like softer, more cuddly Islam that there's no way this could happen in. So by virtue of the books that they started getting, I started looking into that, and I was like, oh, this is much nicer. Like, I'll stay here. You can be friend, like Rumi says, like, come whoever you are, whether you're an idol worshiper, fire worshiper, a monotheist, polytheist, everyone's allowed in this caravan of love. Keep the wine flowing. Like, they're very chill. They listen to music. It's all cool.
By saying that, my first thought is, so was Muhammad wrong getting rid of all the other idols, or now that they're coming back?
Exactly. I don't know. This again now, it seems ridiculous. How do you put those two things together and say it's still a part of Islam, right? But I guess it's taken on this really like esoteric aspect. But yeah, then even that, nothing, it didn't end well. I found out that Sufis are also the first ones to rally up troops for jihad. So even that comes knocking down, there's never a safe place within Islam. But yeah, so that was a key factor. And then when you mentioned the Four Horsemen, that was another massive turning point for me. I think my brother just showed it to me because I think I was starting to say things that were quite controversial from an Islamic perspective, but were along the lines of some of the things that they were talking about. And he was like, I really want you to watch this podcast with me. And I was like, okay, really? Is it good though? And he's like, yeah, just trust me. And the first time I heard them converse like that, I was like, Oh my goodness. Like, yes, obviously this is not a religion or anything like that. But you know, when you just get like, I found my tribe in the sense that they are asking and answering all the right things in the right way. This just seems more right. Exactly as you said it, Dale. Like, this seems way more legit and correct. I just need to find out why. And then I did exactly what you did. I literally typed the words, "Is Islam the truth?" into YouTube, and I went down a rabbit hole. And then I couldn't say it to anybody. And where did I find solace? No other than Twitter, when I realized there's others out there. So yeah, it's insane how similar our journeys are.
And that's a huge thing to me, you know, like when you said you come to Twitter and you find like minds. We all, whether it's religious or not, we all want like minds, people who understand us, people that we can connect with. And that's really what I feel like I'm finding here with the community, building, being part of and helping now build a community where people who leave religions, whichever that be, become lonely. And it's not just lonely like I lost my religion. A lot of times it's I lost my friends, I lost my family, I lost my support system. You know, sometimes I lost my job. Well, sometimes I may lose my head. So,
Yes,
but
exactly.
assuming we're outside of the danger part of it, physical danger, there's still so much that people give up outside of just the belief system. And I'm real big on giving people, or on trying to help give people something to fill that void, because I really feel strongly we don't need religion. We may need some of the things that people get. We do need some of the things people get from religion, but you can get them other places without the mythology, without the misogyny, without, one thing you said, and, talking about, I guess, somehow reformation, and becoming a more spiritual context or whatever you'd want to call it. I don't like that word, but without people would use, a spiritual Muslim than rather, the way you grew up. And that's what I see happening in America a lot now, because people don't want to associate themselves with the far right, with the evangelical Christian nationalist movement. A lot of my friends who always consider themselves Christian are now saying, well, I believe in Jesus, but all that other stuff, that's America and Trump and not me. True Jesus is just Jesus. And it's like, 6 years ago, you thought it was something complete. You believed in all the stuff,
Yeah.
So it didn't change. Your mind changed because you saw things that you weren't okay with. And most decent people, even you're talking about the fundamentalists. Most in every religion are not murderers. They may believe those things, and it can lead people to doing horrible things because they believe they're doing good. I mean, that's the problem. It's the famous Steven Weinberg quote.
Exactly.
I'll just do it for anyone who doesn't know.
Please.
With or without religion, good people will do good things and evil people will do evil things. But for a good person to do evil things, that takes religion. And
mic drop.
Because it's just so condensed and so perfect, and it's true. And the easiest, simplest way I can say this is I know people who consider themselves good, loving, caring people who are Christian. If they weren't Christian, they wouldn't vote. I mean, they're not physically hurting people. So that's their thing. I would never hurt a gay person. Right. They're not going to stone a man to death. But what they will do is vote against a man's rights to marry another man they love. That's hurting a gay person because your religion told you. These people that I know would not do that without religion. They vote for Donald Trump because he said he supports Christianity, which is another story. They vote against gay rights. They belittle women, and now coming to America, taking away bodily autonomy for women because they think it's part of the religion, and it's insane. Those people would not do those things without religion because they think they're doing good. And that's the part that gets me, because there's going to be bad people who do bad things either way, like the quote says.
Yeah.
But when these people genuinely think I'm doing the right thing by God, so your LGBTQ plus friends can't have the same rights as me. I'm not a bad person. That's what God wants. Guess what? No, it's not. There is no God. That's what you want. And that's my thing. It's like they don't see it that way. And we need to get people to think more critically. So if people analyze these things critically and try to think as logically and rationally about them, not everybody, but more people will come to secularism. That's just the path that takes when you ask questions and you're honest to yourself. People stay in their echo chambers. They're taught something, and it's indoctrinated and pushed into them. And neurological pathways.
Exactly.
When you're younger, you're trained to love something, to believe something. It's hard to get rid of that later on.
Especially when it comes from people of authority who, as a child, you were meant to put your entire trust in, faith in, which are your parents, your whatever religious leaders, your grandparents, or whoever it is.
And it's not just people who are authority, it's people who are authority. And then above them, you'll have preachers, pastors, mullahs who are their authority, who then say, above them, there is an omnipotent being who is the authority, and they're giving me the message. So to a kid, why would you question that?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's the whole point. That the entire reason I first came on YouTube was just to be like, no, my intellectual honesty. I could have easily stayed in the fold and found some nice little niche bubble of Islam that I could wrap myself in and just be in complete denial and live in a state of cognitive dissonance. But I just don't think it's possible. If you are intellectually honest with yourself, there is no way to go but to follow where the evidence is leading you. And that is always out. But yeah, Dale, I want to take it to the second part of this because we have some interesting topics to cover. Stop Scamming Man has sent some super chats. If we can just take those real quick, because I don't want them to disappear because I know the chat's scrolling. I don't even know if I can answer these, but we can have a go. Stop Scamming Man, thank you so much for being here and for your support. He says, most academics consider the last third of the Isaiah to be from a later writer. Writers refer to as second, sometimes second and third Isaiah. It's largely from this that Muslim dais clutch at straws to say Muhammad is foretold. As far as I'm aware, I've looked into the whole thing of Muhammad being foretold in the Bible, and it was clutching at straws. It was nowhere near. And if you go by how low the bar is for what Muslims are trying to use and assert in that position, there's also some remnants in Hindu scriptures that talk about a prophet coming from Arabia who's going to be this meat-eating cult, because the Hindus were largely vegetarian. So that was like, and he's going to come and like try and take over India. And that very much could also be true of Muhammad and the concept of like Ghazwa Hind, which is actually documented in the sources, which is to take over. Like the prophet said something to the effect of, my ummah, like my entire nation will not be complete until India is fully, it's like Islamified or under Muslim rule, essentially. But yeah, I don't really know about the whole Isaiah reference or much about the writers. Do you know anything, Dale?
I don't know about that specific thing, but what it makes me think, and knowing a little bit about the Quran and Hadith and the Jewish, the Torah and the Old and New Testament, you could almost make up a scenario and then tell me, this is what I believe is true, and then I could go in those writings and find something that will match up, because there's so many contradictory writings, there are so many vague things. So I feel like when you talk about prophecy, a lot of times it's like a rain dance. Like, like if you keep dancing long enough, if you keep saying enough silly things, well, one's going to match up with something that happens in the future. And a lot of that kind of stuff, prophecy wise, they go for vagueness for the purpose of it will somehow be filled. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Stop Scamming Man has sent another one. Thank you so much, Stop Scamming Man. I really hope I can do these questions justice. Second Kings, I'm not well versed in Christianity at all. Second Kings Church 22 speaks of high priest Hilkiah finding a book of God's law during temple repairs. Deuteronomy seems to purport to be this book, though actually it's later. From this, the Abrahamic faith has stoning for adultery. Oh, if that's the root of it, I'd be really interested to know if it was, because that is definitely something that, the funniest Islamic source I can tell you that says what inspired their concept of stoning was that somebody saw a she monkey being stoned, and then because she had committed adultery, and therefore they followed that example. Why you're following the example of monkeys, I don't know. Why you think a monkey is capable of adultery, I don't know. Why you then implement this into your law as Sharia, I really don't know. But I will definitely look into whether it actually stems from that. Do you I don't know, Dale, could you shed any
Well,
light on that?
I don't know. There's a lot of things it can stem from because, like I said,
Judaism as well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but right there's the if a man, like I just said, the LGBTQ stuff. If a man lies with a man, as a man lies with a woman, they should be stoned to death.
Yeah.
There's so many different things. There's also talking about adultery. If a woman is found not to be a virgin on her wedding night, you're supposed to take her to her father's doorstep and stone her to death on her father's doorstep.
Yeah.
Like, why do you got to make your dad? I mean, it's the whole thing's messed up anyway. But
no, because it's like your dad messed up too. Because why did he not have enough control over his daughter to make sure she remained a virgin until she married? It's on him too. Like the onus falls on him.
Maybe he was extremely progressive for a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah, well, he's gonna reap the punishment for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for a long, long time, many people have reaped the punishment for being progressive.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. It's an ongoing battle, my friend.
Sorry, Bruno, Galileo.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're on the right side of history, Sorry, Stop Skying Man has sent a correction and a super chat. So thank you. Correction, Stop Skying Man says
death.
Is Deuteronomy prescribes death for adultery, but not stoning. It does, however, have stoning for sexual offenses, including lack of proof of a bride's virginity. Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. Exactly. We can see that derivation and we can see the way it follows through.
By the way, just because I knew that was coming, it doesn't mean I'm a prophet. It could just be coincidence.
Yeah, definitely that. But yeah, okay, so what I wanted to say, well, let me see what I kind of wanted to stay. Oh, so I feel like let's get onto the topic of, we love this topic on this channel, but misogyny. So you shared with me off air that you had a story to share, which was obviously not really related to Islam or Judaism, which we are going to touch on. But this story, when you told me, no, it just exemplifies the misogyny, even like within Christianity. I'm like, yeah, you know what, like any story that can shed light and expose some of the darker aspects of these Abrahamic faiths, I'm more than happy to hear it. So yeah.
Well, first of all, you're seeing it in my country now, just with women losing bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
If it was men losing some type of right, that wouldn't be the case. It just wouldn't. And all of the Abrahamic religions, by nature, the Abrahamic religions are extremely misogynistic. But I had a personal experience, and this is, I guess when it's like real personal and it hits you, it makes you realize what else is out there. I've been this way with religion for 15 years now. And that's what I say as far, there's no exact starting point, but roughly 15 years I've been feeling similarly to how I do now, but it's gotten worse and worse. In my personal life, I said I was raised Jewish. My mother then, when I was out of the house in my 20s, had a, what do you call it? A visit. And she is now an evangelical Christian, went from Reformed Judaism to Christian to, full force evangelical. We were at a point where we were starting to have, disconnect, not being able to communicate. And something in me didn't, really know what it was. Like, it was like kind of like maybe it's age, because she's getting older and we're different things. She's into her religion and I'm into the science stuff. So there's a clash there. And then I become anti-religion. So I'm sure that's, a factor on how we communicate our relationship. Well, it got really bad to the point where like my mother's always been my best friend. Like, we've always been close, like only child raised by my mother. And she's always been a sweetheart. We've always had a really good relationship. But we just have had so many issues communicating that I started questioning things, saying like, why can't we talk? I don't get it. I'm trying to. And I was just seeing, to me, more and more, it was becoming like it's the religion. I feel like the religion is making her unable to converse with me. Now, she probably would tell you that it's not related. But at one point, it was like we couldn't talk. And I was like, you're just willing to give up? And she was kind of like, yeah, we can't talk. That's it. I can't talk to you. You don't understand me. And I'm like, you're willing to give up on our whole relationship of communicating? Like, she could be around for another 20 something years. Like, she's not 90. She's in her late 60s. So she said to me, she's like, why don't you talk to my pastor? I think he can better describe how I feel about this. And even that right there is like, somebody else can describe how I feel better than I can. that doesn't make any sense to me. Like nobody can describe how you can feel better than you can. Nobody
Exactly.
can.
Exactly.
Nobody. I don't care what your beliefs are, what your background is. Nobody can express themselves better than you. Maybe you're not good at expressing yourself, but they can't express it any better, you know. So I did. I went. I had a phone call with him, and I tried. I said, "Listen, you know, we've had issues in the past, or pastor and I, because I've tried to communicate and it just hasn't worked. You know, when it's evangelical, like they believe 100%, it's hard to have a conversation with someone who thinks the earth is less than 10,000 years old. You know, for when you're someone like me, because evolution isn't a thing to them, you know, and it's just like we live in different realities.
Yeah, literally.
But what hit me during the phone conversation, and it made it the last time I'll ever speak to him, and I was saying I can't communicate with her, and you know, and I think it's some of this stuff. So, is there anything you can give me as like ways I could possibly help her understand me or me understand her? And he said this. He said, "Dale, listen, I know you're a very, very intelligent guy, and I would never question that. Part of the reason I think you don't see the things the way we do is because you have all this information in your head, so you're not open to it." And I went, "Did you just say I know too much to understand what you do?" And he's like, "Well, yes, in some ways." And I'm like, "So you're saying it's better not to know things? That's how you can know things?"
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. He was telling me it's better to be ignorant because then God will come to you. And I'm like, "Well, of course it will." But I don't, that's the point. And then the line came to me when we talk about the misogyny, and he said, "You know, of course the religion is an issue, you know, because you have different beliefs. But one of the things you have to understand, Dale, I know you probably don't feel this way." When he prefaced it, it made me know he knew what he was doing. He said, "But your mother's a woman, and women don't understand the way men speak." I went, whoa. And he goes, "No, give me a second." And I went, no, I'm sorry, I'm dumb. And he goes, "Dale, he like calming me down." I went, "No, listen, I'm very, very sorry. I'm going to end this the best way I can. I cannot finish this conversation with you anymore. That was extremely misogynistic. And I will not speak to someone who speaks about my mother in that way."
Yes.
And he's like, "Dale, that's not what I said. You're twisting my words." And I went, "Listen, I'm sorry. I got to go. I really have to end this. Thank you for trying, but I can't." And I ended the phone conversation. And the thing that kills me the most is my mother loves this person so much. I mean, he's meant a lot to her in her life. And if I ever told her that he said that, I think somehow she would blame me. Like, "That's not what he meant. You're twisting it," like he said. His exact words to me, his exact words were, "Dale, I know you're not going to like this or not agree, but your mother doesn't understand you. And part of the reason is because she's a woman and they can't understand how men speak." Fuck you. That's not true. Being a woman has nothing to do with whether you can or cannot understand how a man talks. So when I heard that, I went, I guess I just have to separate myself. That's her life now. And her life is wanting to be under the thumb of a patriarchal person who thinks less of her. Like, I can't. I mean, I know you're like, this is genuine emotion right now, but like, the closest person in my life would be mad at me if I told her the truth about the closest person in her life now. And there's no lies, there's no shadiness, there's no switching words. He told me that my mother doesn't understand me because she's a woman. And that's the misogyny I fight against. So if she wants to be part of that world, there's nothing I can do anymore. Like, it's pretty deep, you know. There's more to that, but
it's a crazy thing to fathom, though, right? Like,
she has said the phrase to me, though, like, "These are my beliefs and I'm happy with it. I don't care about if it's right or wrong. This is what I want for the rest of my life, so just let it be," you know. And when you hear that, it's like, what can you do? The devils and demons are real to her, and ghosts and spirits and prayer and talking in tongues and laying hands and all of that stuff. So I love her to death, and I know she means well, but I'm not going to be a misogynist to my mother. I'm not going to treat her as less. I'm not going to be part of that cult. And when I say the word cult, I say it with no question. The man has got his thumb on you. He's telling you what you can and cannot do, how to think. You telling me, call him and ask him how I think. And when I call him, he says she's stupid and can't talk. Those weren't his exact words. And I'll be honest, his words were, "She can't understand you because she's a woman." But that means she's stupid and can't speak or think. So I'm sorry. Like, to me, that's the evil of organized religion, that it lets these wonderful people get scooped up and they fall in love with people who are telling them things that, I mean, the pastor probably believes what he's telling her. I don't know that he doesn't.
Yeah. Probably
Because somebody
does.
brainwashed him, so now he's brainwashing her. So I try to be clear about this. Like it's not always people lying to each other. Sometimes it's, well, I mean, they're not telling truthfulness, but I call it unintentionally spreading falsehoods. They're not lying. They're not saying something they don't know to be true. But if truth to you is that women are mentally inferior to men, then fuck you, because first of all, you're wrong. Second of all, you're basing it on a mythology that's definitely not true. So it brings me back to, I guess, what my core of me is with this: critical thinking, logic, reason, equality. Just when I say equality too, it means equal opportunity, not that we're all the same, separate but equal kind of thing. But the humanity is what it's about to me. And that's why you hear the passion when I talk. It's about humanity. It's about my female friends having the same rights as I do, my LGBTQ plus friends having the same rights as I do, because we're human and we're all the same. And when I say that, we talk about, we haven't mentioned the science stuff yet, but like, we're literally, Carl Sagan, we're literally all stardust. And it's not like a trope that sounds nice, like, oh, we're stardust. No, we were forged at the center of stars. Without nuclear fusion, we would not exist. And that's 100% true. So we all come from the same place. So when I call somebody brother, it's not trying to be cute. It's because we're related. Like, to me, that's why. So when I learned a little bit about those things, the misogyny went away, because it's not just that it's like right or wrong. It's illogical. It doesn't make sense. I want to do what is logical, what makes sense, and what's also compassionate. And you combine those, the misogyny goes away. Racism goes away. I'm going to hate you because your ancestors grew up in a different place, closer or further from the equator. That doesn't make me sound mean. It makes me sound dumb, and I don't want to be dumb. So I'm not going to hate people for the color of their skin. So, and it's not just that, but then you can even go further with, xenophobia, not liking somebody because they're from Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or wherever that be, or from America or from Australia. Who cares? Where somebody is born has nothing to do with the character, other than being raised in a culture that may have, influenced that character. But it's not where you're born at all. Our brains, evolution's been going on for quite a while, and our brains are all pretty similar, and we have the similar, not the same, but similar, very similar abilities. The only reason it's not shown a lot is because of, suppression, repression, of subjugating women. If in Islam, people under Sharia not being able to read, there's a reason for that, because it's power. You don't want to give people the power to knowledge is power. And when these power structures have us like that, and they usually do, that's the best way we can fight back, is to be educated. Like I said with the pandemic, or like I said with, the misogyny or the homophobia, knowledge is power.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, it's so sad. I had the exact, again, very similar, but like, I know the feelings that you're talking about, and where that it's almost like a sense of helplessness, because you don't want to be helped that badly. Like, you're so adamant to stick to this that you, like, even if somebody said to you, this might be the truth, you can't see it, and you don't want to see it. So if you just interchange like that pastor for me saying anything to, like, let's say my family or anyone in my extended family who are still very much believers about Muhammad, it's the exact same thing. Like, I was actually told by a family member to my face that if you don't love Muhammad, you would never be happy. So, like, don't question his marriages. Like, what's wrong with you?
In the Bible, and people will say this is out of context, but I don't give a fuck. Luke 14:26, Jesus says, and he's not saying to hate people, so I'm just being fair. He's saying, in comparison to him, to get into heaven, you must, and I can't list them all, but hate your mother, hate your father, hate your brother, hate your sister, hate your neighbor, hate your sister-in-law, basically Jesus says to hate everybody who you love, compared to your love for him and the Father, or you don't get in. So when I hear that, it's like, they're trying to divide us. Like, it's trying to say God is good, people are bad. And that's what humanism is to me. I consider myself a secular humanist above and beyond any atheist or anti-theist title. If I have to give myself a title, I love secular humanist because it means I believe that a lack of religion when making laws and rules for all of us is the proper way. And I mean that for if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, if you're Jewish, it's still the best way for you. It's the fairest way for everybody to get along in a society. To me, you can be secular and believe in one of those religions. It gets tough when you do that because I go, well, if you believe, then you should be cutting off people's heads. But, there's different levels of belief. So it's just tough to me because secular humanism and that in a ball means everything to me. I put humanity above deities, above any mythology, because even if any of that is true, we don't know that. And this, like real people, we do know. I know my female friends are being, subject to the harm and pain, and my mother being subject to, being subject to being subject. And my LGBTQ friends don't have the rights they should, or they're not even just not treated fairly. It's organized religion and veneration to a deity kills humanity. It just does.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And yeah, again, the same trope that you were talking about, loving somebody above and beyond your own family, your own flesh and blood, your own friends, your own community. It is that complete submission, and it is that slave master type relationship. And it really just keeps people locked in. And it's so sad to see, especially like, you look around and I see generations that have lost like their entire lives. This is, for all we know, the only life we get. And they've just wasted it bowing up and down 5 times a day and being guilty if they were like 5 minutes late on one day at one particular time because God is so damn punctual for some reason.
But you will see when we die who's right. I can't stand that line. No, we won't.
But would you still wager your life away? I would never wager my life away.
Yeah,
also, God should be smarter than that.
The main reason that we won't find out after we're dead is because we'll be dead.
Exactly.
Dead people don't learn things because they don't have a brain.
Because they're dead.
That's why one of the, a friend of mine says this all the time, and it's simple, funny thing, but it's, the virus, he calls it a language virus, religion, when certain words they use to tug at heartstrings.
Yeah.
The afterlife is death. You don't need an extra word.
Life is death.
Right. It's very
finito.
Right. 1 + 1 equals heaven. Yeah. No.
Yeah. The way you were before you were born, exactly that kind of vibe it's going to be again. That's it.
Well, I love that too. I'm glad you mentioned that. When people say, well, aren't you worried? No. Before I was born, didn't bother me.
Yeah.
So after I'm alive, won't bother me either because I won't be. And that's okay. Like, I really do think accepting reality. Accepting reality gives you so much more. They say it brings peace of mind to believe that stuff. No, it gives me peace of mind to know, like you said, this is it. Let's do it up. That's why I'm focused on making things better for us here now. And when I say us here now, part of that is, not caring about my friends, my old friends as much, who, when I would go to a party, I've said this line a few times, I'd go to a party and I would say, hey guys, did you hear about this new exoplanet outside of whatever solar system? And or in whatever solar system. And they would say, oh, dude, shut up, grab a beer. So I would grab a beer. And then it was like they were pushing down my intellectual love, my joy.
And Dale, can I just say, sorry, it is never a good sign when you start to be the most smart or curious person in the room. Yeah. You need to change your room.
That's why I love my Twitter family. There's people I'm speaking to now and connecting with. Everybody's smarter than me. And it feels so good because we can learn from each other. It's being at whatever level of intelligence, nobody knows everything that somebody else knows. And it's that simple. Like, so everybody can, share and grow from each other. Like these conversations, when I have conversations, with these people that I'm talking about, every person in it learns. Yeah, some of us have more knowledge and more experience. And if you're not afraid to talk and you're open, you're going to learn and you're going to improve. And it's a shame. Like I was stifled. I was hindered my education, but I went along with it because I was trained by my society to say, yeah, partying is the fun way. And I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody don't party at all. I still have a lot of fun, but it's a side thing. It's not all I do. And that's what I did with all of my free time before.
And now you are able to follow and channel your intellectual pursuits and go and like learn and like satisfy the curiosity that you have for certain topics. And like, that is a beautiful thing. I think if you are on this side and people are like, oh, you guys have no meaning in your life and what do you live for?
Right.
I live to learn. I live to learn as much as I possibly can, as much as is physically possible to learn. And the more languages, the more places I can see, we've got everything to live for. It's actually like the table's flipped on its head.
I lose so much sleep because I can't stop learning. Like I'll start reading something and I'll want to go to sleep in 30 minutes and 3 hours later, I'm still going all the time. When I was younger, that used to be video games or watching sports, competitions. And now it's my education. So
yeah, that's beautiful. It's this, I always tell people like on the other side of things, because, a lot of people are like so happy and so afraid of like facing facts. Exactly. But what's on the other side? Yeah, exactly. But on the other side, honestly, once you traverse that, it is beautiful on this side. It really is.
Just because life doesn't have a purpose doesn't mean you can't create purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, touche. But I think this is a great transition. I kind of wanted to, obviously you do come from a Jewish background, albeit not that practicing or religious, as opposed to like the cultural things.
I had a bar mitzvah.
You had a bar mitzvah. You qualify. You're
I had
well
a quick
up there.
story, 10-second story, but you might want to take it longer. About a year after my bar mitzvah, my rabbi, Rabbi Fred Newlander of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, had his wife murdered. True story. I have a picture with the rabbi. I'll share with you after this, but my rabbi, who I knew very well, had hired 2 hitmen and had his wife murdered. If anybody wants to see it, it's Rabbi Fred Newlander. I'm not giving it away. He's already been caught. N-E-U. Either way, I should. N-E-U-L-A-N-D-E-R. Newlander. Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And he was convicted of murder. He had 2 hitmen kill his wife. And that was Fred, my buddy. It's like having a picture with OJ, kind of.
So you were actually buddies with this guy?
Whoa, don't call me buddies. I was, yes. Yeah, I knew him. Wow. We were on a first name, pat you on the back. How you been?
Okay, I see. Oh my days. Okay, wow. Anyway, was he prosecuted now to the
He was prosecuted
extent of the law?
Yeah,
okay.
And he's been in jail for whatever, 20-something years. 20 years, and he'll be there probably till he dies. It's one of those like almost a life sentence, but not officially a life sentence.
Okay, like parole.
Yeah.
Okay, indefinitely. We'll see.
I don't know. I don't even know the amount of years. Like he might get out when he's 88 or something.
God, that is wild. Yeah, sorry, it was like you literally just chucked that curveball at me. I was like, whoa, I was just about to veer into Judaism, but I was like, what?
Yeah.
Murder.
Veering into Judaism, veering out of Judaism.
Right. Yeah, that's where I want to be right now. But so basically, in general, Judaism, as obviously being the predecessor to Islam, has always been given like some kind of credence in Islam. Obviously, not much, because it was like they messed it all up, and they started taking Ezra as the son of God, and their books are corrupted and blah, blah, blah. And you see so much in the Hadith literature when Muhammad is just trying to absolutely, like in his most childish ways, trying to do the complete opposite of what the Jews are doing. So if they sit, he'll stand. If they stand, he'll sit. And he just wants to be like outwardly, manifestly different from them. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to see the way that
if they'll take you to court, he'll cut off your head.
Yeah.
I know back then they were a little different.
Yeah. But basically, even just the interactions we see, right, in Islam, in the Islamic sources between like Arabs and then the Quraysh when they obviously became Muslim, and the Jews of Arabia at the time. So it's really telling of like just the kind of relationship they had, but also, again, it's not always pleasant at all, because Muhammad has gone and done like aggressive raids and like killed entire tribes. So there's obviously that. But what I wanted to ask you and pick your brain about, if you know about it, is just that I basically watched, on the back of the last interview you did, I finally got some time to watch the show Unorthodox on Netflix, and it kind of details it's a very Orthodox Jewish community. It's the Hasidic Jewish community in New York. And I was shocked, first of all, at the complete inherent misogyny within Orthodox Judaism, to the point where women's heads are shaved and then they have to wear a wig just because they shouldn't feel the pride of like their own hair, because again, it's like just arming women with like this sexual prowess that these rabbis think that they would just completely misuse. That women are unhinged sexually. They put all of these kind of things in place. The fact that even in the Orthodox community they can't sing because it's considered too seductive and tempting for men. It reminds me exactly of kind of the things Muhammad would say, where, you know, you should not speak softly to men because it might seduce them. You should talk to them in a really aggressive, harsh tone, and you shouldn't make too much noise when you walk out in the streets as to attract men. So he would have a fit by today's like high heels on the streets. If he was out on a night out in London, he'd actually like go crazy. But yeah, so there's all of this. But when they actually discussed source material, when they were having a conversation, and apparently one of the first commandments, the first commandment of the Torah actually in itself for men, is what I've gauged from what I've read about it, is to procreate. Essentially, it says, be fruitful and multiply. And this is almost a commandment for men. And it's kind of like women are just to be the bearing end of it, but this is prescribed on men. So again, it just struck out to me, this concept in Islam where, you know, you have 4 wives and they're your property, and you effectively turn them into baby making machines because you take away all agency, you confine them to their houses, all of that. So they have one purpose. Exactly. So is this really the case in Judaism? Is this?
It's the case, like you said, in those Hasidic, you know, the cultures in pockets of America who still take it, you know, the way they did. Yes. And I want to be very clear that part of the reason that that there is that division is because we're talking about today. You know, there was not just, you know, Judaism was way before Christianity. So not just the difference, the 500, 600 year difference in Christianity and Islam, but then you're talking thousands of years. So that was the way Judaism was. It's almost like it's evolved more, not everywhere, but in parts of the world, it's evolved more than Islam for a few reasons, not just Islam, but Christianity too. A lot of Jewish people in America today are almost secular Jewish. You know, they consider themselves Jewish atheists, where it's more heritage. But the misogyny, and I'll tell you this, I have a good story for that with my family too. My cousin is a Hasidic Jew, lives in a kibbutz, which is, you know, an area for just them. They only live amongst each other with Hasidic Jews. They celebrate the Sabbath the way that they are told to in the books. I mean, all kind of you know, I don't want to go nuts. I don't know a lot of the curls on the side of the head and the little box on your head, and all wearing all black. And I don't know, it looks like some things I've seen in the serious Islamic communities, you know, like what's the difference between them doing that and someone wearing a hijab? I'm just seeing similar repression. But when it comes to the women, again, my cousin and I had a close relationship, a very friendly relationship growing up. We weren't close, but never any bad blood, always liked each other. He went to college in Israel, came back Hasidic. He was always Jewish, but, you know, came back full force. College. So as adults, we've had a divide there, but nothing bad. And to be honest, he's more open with me about the religion stuff than most of my Christian and Catholic friends, because he's able to speak about it, and, you know, it doesn't challenge his. I guess with him, they tell him to question your views, where with a lot of the Christian folks I know, they say do not question your views. But I went to a family get together, and I'd known his wife for a while on social media, and it was our first time meeting in person. And my family would, you know, will always remember this story. This is maybe 10 years ago. And his wife was smiling at me, and I went, ah! And I said her name, and I ran toward her to hug her. She freaked out like I threw a rock at her face. She screamed ah, and ducked her head and covered herself. And I immediately felt embarrassed. Like, what did I do wrong? I looked around. Now everybody around me was laughing because they knew the rules of their people, of their tribe, literally Judea, of their tribe, of their people. But you're not allowed to touch a man's wife. So I couldn't hug my cousin's wife, who liked me and I like, and we're friendly, but can't hug. Then I realized that her hair was not her real hair. And like you said, they told us the story. Nobody is allowed to see or touch her hair other than her husband. And that's just like the weirdest thing to me. And like, again, you said the misogyny, like it's the weirdest thing to me how that's all connected through these things. And the only thing I can think of when I read the texts is they were written by men for men. So it's all patriarchal. It's like, how do we control these women? Well, tell them they aren't worth shit. Tell them God said it.
Precisely. And you know what? I actually, there's one of our ex-Muslim groups from like different parts of the UK, and one of them actually shared that I found this so ridiculous. Like I could not help but laugh a bit. But I was like, this is so, if it wasn't so depressing, it would just be just funny. But like, it's actually sad. In Islamic school, in like Muslim school, sorry. So in schools here that have like an Islamically religious element to them, right? So the Islamic schools here where the girls are wearing hijab, those girls, some of them, if they have friends that are non-Muslims, they tell those girls not to take off their hijab even in front of their non-Muslim
competition
girlfriends in case they talk about the Muslim girl's hair to other people.
Like, Don't describe my hair. Sounds like don't draw a picture of the Prophet Muhammad a little bit, doesn't it?
Wow, it does indeed. Yeah, I didn't even make that link. But yeah, bloody hell.
It's a description.
The paranoia is just, it's unreal.
Oh, and you know what? I will say one thing. Nobody will ever see or touch my hair. but not because of God said so, because my razor says so.
Yeah, exactly.
And a little bit of biological evolution.
Yes, which is also facts. Facts. Okay. So what else did I want to ask you? Also, I wanted to bring up what you talked about, because just obviously when you leave religion behind and you start following everything else that you were curious about potentially before that religion held you back from, for example, and everything that religion held you back from accepting or looking into. Like, I'll be honest, and I'll hold my hands up in the air as well and say I went to school in Saudi Arabia, and even though I was in a school which followed the British curriculum, somehow, I don't know how the Saudi authorities have negotiated a deal with the British school systems here, but we completely missed the chapter on evolution in our high school textbook. So it was essentially like blacked out, which was really strange because we did do the subject on reproduction, which was really weird in Saudi Arabia, and they were all really weird about it. But in England, you have sex education as a normal part of like schooling, or it's called, or PSC or something, but you have a normal daily class where that stuff is normal. But in Saudi Arabia, it was the biggest deal when we came to that one chapter of reproduction. Yeah.
I have a feeling you're going to know what I'm talking about, but for anybody who doesn't, or if you don't, if you want to see something really sad, go to YouTube and watch Richard Dawkins go to a group of young Muslim schoolgirls, or not just schoolgirls, young Muslims at school, and asking them about evolution and about the things they've been taught in school, even down to the saltwater, freshwater thing,
Oh, you guys have that too?
No, for Islam.
Oh, for Islam. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And that's Hadith, right? And Richard Dawkins is talking to these people, and he's trying to be, him a little bit. He's trying to be cordial, and he's like, "You really believe that? You genuinely believe because the Prophet Muhammad said that that's true, and that we haven't evolved?" And they're like, "Yep." And it was like just straight out, and he's
that's Quran actually, I think. So that's even more damaging.
No, I mean that was actually that when he said that it was about the salt water, but. When he said that, he had this look on his face, and it's what I feel all the time. It's hurt because it's like these kids don't know any better, and like we said at the beginning, of course they're going to be. Yeah, I believe that because that's what God said. That's what they're programmed to think. But if they it's not they open their minds; it's we allow people to open their minds. It's like you said, your evolution was redacted. It was literally taken out, like you said, removed, blocked from you. And it shouldn't be anymore. It shouldn't be some creationism, some evolution. Just, in America, they're doing that now. Say, well, let's teach both theories. There aren't two.
Exactly.
It's evolution by natural selection, which is why we're here. And we know that. And there's no question. The human genome has been decoded. It's now DNA confirmed.
Beyond doubt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So to me, on some level, that's lying to children.
No, it is for sure. And honestly, like, Christopher Hitchens was not wrong when he says, like, he amounts it to child abuse at some points. Like, when you actually are, because you genuinely are stagnating a child's brain development. You are stagnating critical thought and their faculties. Yeah, you're stunting it right there in their most formative years. So they are not able to like construct logical thoughts. They're not able to understand like things about like how do you start with a true premise and how do you follow like logical reasoning, and they can't do it.
That's what I said when I just like lightly mentioned neuroplasticity.
Yes.
When they're younger, that's when you have to have things open, and that's when they have to start those pathways in your brain to start training yourself. Brain is like any other muscle, it's like any muscle. You have to train it. And if you don't start when you're young, it's almost like handing somebody a baseball for the first time ever when they're 40 years old and saying, okay, now throw a pitch. Have you ever seen someone try to throw a baseball who hasn't thrown a baseball? It looks like they're 2 years old and they've never done it. But it's not because they're not capable or they don't have the same abilities as everybody else. It's because their whole life they haven't trained the brain. It's not just muscle. When you talk about muscle memory, that's the brain. It's brain that remembers those things and then sends the signal to the muscle. So when you're stunting a brain that young and saying, this is the truth, don't think about it, just know it, you're going to have adults who aren't capable. It's not their fault. They're just no longer capable of really learning, or it's too much effort and it hurts too much. I also said homeostasis. When you try to tell the brain something that it doesn't think is true, it doesn't want to believe it. It's defending itself. It's saying, no, this can't be true. So you have to fight against that. And the key is to not put that in there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's to encourage critical thinking from the very get-go. Yeah. But I also just really wanted to very quickly touch on this whole concept of like the chosen people in Judaism, which I find very, very problematic. But I also find like parallels again within Islam, where even the Prophet's final sermon, which has been so wrongly translated into him saying no Muslim is superior to any other Muslim, or, no Arab is superior to any other Muslim. They kind of always push for that. But really, in the entire lifetime of the Prophet, he pushed for the superiority of the Quraysh, and like they were the most supreme amongst the Arabs. They are the best amongst the Arabs. And you see the way that even in his lifetime, he's traded 2 black slaves for another slave. And you see this complete, like, this whole concept of like, you need to, again, the push for let's create an entire population, a brotherhood, an ummah, and let's push that forward. But again, what I just realized from how intensely certain communities can follow their religion in terms of the Hasidic Jews, they really do believe that they are a chosen people. And they actually do tend to believe that because they like veered off of God's path and veered away from the path, that the Holocaust happened. And now they have to revert back to their ways so by the book on how it was back then, that they are almost ordered to rebuild the 6 million lost. And that's the kind of peddling that it was behind this procreation thing. And I just was I don't know, I was a bit shook. I didn't realize how, I can see now I can see how Islam can latch on enough to be Abrahamic enough to say, oh yeah, we were something connected to that, because there are these same values that trickle down. But yeah, that's crazy.
Well, and also when they talk about evolution, as if a bloodline means something, and they talk about that a lot in Judaism, right? Whether it's just Ashkenazi blood or genuinely just the tribe of David or whatever you want to call it.
The 12 lost tribes of Israel as well.
12 lost tribes, right? Exactly. Yeah. That whole thing is like, we're not. Like, the God of Abraham is a fucking bigot. Like I mean, like honestly, like I know that bothers people, but like you can't argue that unless you're going to argue the definition of bigot. He says the Jews are I mean, in the Torah, the original Old Testament, the Jews are the chosen people. But then he also goes to, he tells them to kill. When you talk about the things Muhammad did, the tribes, the Judea, the Israelites, he literally says to go kill the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amalekites and all of those, tribes from the Mesopotamian areas. In the book, he literally says, kill them because you're better than them. And he says to take their women. And literally, because people will say, oh, he doesn't say to rape them. Or he says, take their women and do what you will with them.
I was just thinking that in my head to give them that free pass.
Tell me I'm translating it wrong. What do you think most guys wanted to do with the women they took? And then in that same, breath, as if God ever had a breath, in that same verse, he says, and to dash their babies, which, if anybody doesn't know the term dashing, it's literally bashing a baby's head against rocks, against stone, to kill them. So this is what the God of Abraham told the Jewish people to do, because the other people were not the chosen people. So you got to murder them and dash the babies and rape the women. And God is always good. I don't know how you get there. How do you hear those things and worship that deity?
No, exactly. And also just again, if you follow like the more fundamental Orthodox aspect of Judaism as well, I realized that they also don't allow, now they have started to allow it, but initially women were not allowed to even study the scripture. They're not allowed to like read the Talmud, and then it's actually not encouraged at all. Some rabbis went so far as to say that would encourage promiscuity in women, and then certain men were like,
another thing with the misogyny with Judaism, I don't know if you know this, and I don't know the exact words, but they pray a lot, just like Islam, when you're in those sects. Not most, but the first prayer they say every day starts off with them thanking God for not making them a woman. Literally, it says, thank you for not making me a Gentile and thank you for not making me a woman. And that's a prayer they say every day. And I don't know how you can be a woman and
say that
and live with a man who every morning says, thank you, God, for not making me one of her. And so when we talk about the misogyny, yes, Judaism, that's not misogynistic. Thanking God for not making you a woman.
Well, the woman's probably thinking, yeah, damn right, you should thank God, because it's so hard being a woman. In
that way, right? But that's not they don't mean it as, thanks, that's tough. They mean thanks, I'm glad I'm not one of those things.
Yeah, thanks, I'm not that piece of scum who's just my property, essentially. Yeah. Or as Islam says, that women are like your tilth, go on to them however you please and whenever you please. And if you refuse your husband, angels curse you all night long. There's so many little
the ones you take with your
manipulative tactic. Them as well. But yeah, I also wanted to, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but you did mention, just on the topic of evolution, you said something so beautiful in the stream that you did with Gulzar that it really stuck with me, and I pulled you up on it then as well, and I said, I love the way that you phrase that, because I think it's very powerful. And it's basically when you said to people that, no, you say it. I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
As far as believing in evolution.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I think it's a very clear and concise thing, but I think it's important that we start saying this when we talk about evolution. You always hear people ask if other people believe in evolution, and just asking that question is putting them on the same level. So like we said earlier, the question shouldn't be, do you believe in evolution? It should be, do you understand evolution? Because the only people who don't believe in it do so because they don't understand it. It's not to be believed or not believed in like a God. It's to be understood or not understood like the rest of knowledge.
Yeah, no, I love that, because do you understand? Their understand being the operative word, I think is so damn powerful, because the second you don't understand and then you almost give in to that resignation, you resign that lack of understanding to a God, and then you come out with things like, why are there still monkeys? Or like, okay, fine, show me like a monkey turning into an 8-year-old boy.
You hear nonstop in America. the phrase, "My daddy ain't no monkey."
Yeah.
And it's the silliest thing because nobody's ever suggested anything close to that. All that shows is that you have no idea what we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is a case for most people because it is a concept that is, it is hard to grasp. Like, it is something that you need to rely on the evidence that we have on the fossil record, on what experts are saying. And you also have to rely and respect when they're being humble enough to say, we don't know that yet. And we're getting there, or now we have sufficient evidence to say this, or like now. So they are literally just staying true to what is actual reality. It is your choice, and I think you echoed this earlier, Dale, and I agree completely. The reason I started this whole channel was because I did not have a right to be ignorant anymore, because every single source is available readily at my fingertips. And if someone tells me something, sorry, for example, why did the prophet marry a 6-year-old? And I sit there and just defend it without having an iota of knowledge or evidence to back me. Now I can say, what does my actual God say about what happened there? And if it's fully there as the last messenger of God to have done that, I either need to be in a position where I defend this, or I say, that's not for me. I see the thumbprints of men all over this crap now.
When you said that, I would like to share one more shocker with you.
Sure.
Same pastor, different time.
Okay.
I was trying to have a conversation with him, like two adults, and we were calm and speaking, human to human. He would say man to man because women can't understand.
Yeah.
but I said to him, I want to ask you an honest question, because you say you're evangelical and you believe every word in the Bible to be true. And he said, yes. And I said, and you believe God to be all good. So everything God says or does is good, right? And he said, yes, of course. And I said, then can you explain to me, like we just talked about, I said, can you explain to me why an all good God would command people to murder and kill children and rape women? And that's in the Bible. And I told him where it was. I pointed it out and said, this is here. These are the words of your God. You would call that good? And I don't know what I expected the answer to be, but this is what I got. Dale, I wish I could explain it to you better. And I wish you understood, but I know you're not going to, because I don't fully understand. But everything that God commands is good. And I went, wait a minute. So you're literally telling me the rape and murder of children and women, or innocent, not like a guilty person deserves to be raped, but innocent people were murdered and women were raped for nothing, just because a God commanded it. And you're
Don't
saying
tell me he said divine retribution or something.
And I said, and you're saying that's good. And he went, I have to believe it's good. And he shook his head, and I went, that's fucking sad, because you don't have to believe it. It's fucking disgusting. And at that moment, I felt, that was the last time I was in a room with him. And I felt sick to I literally felt sick to my stomach that another human he didn't want to say it. He was like sad. He was looking at me like, I wish I could explain to you why it's good. And the reason you can't explain to me why the rape and murder of innocent humans is good is because it's not. So like you just said, you're trying to explain it because of the word of Allah, the word in the Quran, the words in the Hadith. He's trying to explain it because the words of his God from the Old Testament, they have to be true. No, they don't. That's the problem. You start out with a presupposition that something is true, and then you trying to squeeze a round peg in a square hole for the rest of your life. It's just not, it doesn't work. It makes a otherwise good person say and do evil things. I don't believe in the word evil. Like, I think that's a religious word. But if there's any kind of evil, it's somebody like that shaking their head and almost crying that they have to say that rape and murder is good because they were told it's good. That's disgusting. I mean, like, I can't. Yeah, it's why I fight against this stuff. It's just it's the opposite of logic and reason and compassion.
And the antithesis to humanity. It's the antithesis to humanity in itself. It is literally a threat to humanity. No, and I appreciate it, and that's why I wanted to have you on board today. And I wanted to, obviously, like, it's great to have you on side. And I've seen like the way you you talk and you interact with people and you challenge them head on and you make some really bold statements. Yeah, so I think this is exactly like what this movement needs. It needs like the passion that you have. And I do see that you have got some exciting things coming up. You've been very active on Twitter. You've got some, well, yeah, tell us what's going on. How can people follow you? What can they expect to see? What's going on?
I like the word expect because that means for me to predict the future. I'll be a prophet here and tell you what's coming. No, for me personally, this is all still pretty new. Like I said, I did my first podcast 11 months ago with that Neil the 604 atheist. I didn't do my second podcast until 4 months ago. And in the last 4 months, I've appeared on other people's. Goals are like you named and yours today. Other than that, all I've done with the podcast stuff is, if anybody wants to check it out, by the way, it's a great, it's not secular per se, or for just for non-believers, but it's for people who want to question things, logic, reason, critical thinking. I do a podcast run by George Stiles, who's also on Twitter. You can find him from my Twitter stuff, called The Socratic Method. That's his YouTube channel. I've done about 7 podcasts, 7 or 8 maybe, on his in the last 4 months. And that's just like a round circle talk, which is great. Myself personally, all I'm doing right now is every Thursday, I'm co-hosting a Spaces on Twitter with my friend Zaylin. And we're calling it the OK Atheists. And it's basically a safe space for secular people, people who are just coming out of religion or have and don't have, like we said earlier, the communities, the people to talk to. And we're kind of centering that around like you mentioned this word earlier, like a holistic vibe, very positive. We have guests every week. I don't want to throw out any names, but we have some pretty awesome guests lined up, like that I'm actually genuinely excited about. And we've had some on recently. One, and this could, I just want to quickly do it, but we had somebody last week who has been putting up signs in American schools. I don't know if you've seen this, with God bless America type stuff, or, but written in different languages. And then, when somebody sees something written in what they consider Islamic, whether it's, Farsi or Hindi, they look at that and they go, oh, I don't want that. And it's like, it's God bless America. That's what you wanted, or, or in God we trust, or whatever. So it's sparking those ideas. And we've had a lot of people like that. We've only been doing it for, maybe 6 weeks or so, but it's picking up. And that's my regular thing on a weekly basis right now. 8:00 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time now, Eastern Standard Daylight. In America. Yeah. Let's not discuss the times anymore today. We had enough trouble getting together on that.
We really have, yes.
For 2 reasonably intelligent people, we couldn't figure out what time it was.
I know. Flipping heck.
That's just called being hectic, being busy people.
Yeah.
But so right now, that's all I have going.
Okay. So how can people? So what your Twitter handle is?
My Twitter handle is InfiDale at InfiDale 3476. And
so that's where people can follow you to get information about the Twitter Spaces, right?
You'll get all the information about the Spaces and anything further I'm doing. Twitter is basically the best way to follow me right now.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that. I was all over Facebook, all over Instagram, TikTok before Twitter. And Twitter was the one I hadn't done. When I came to Twitter, I closed all of those accounts because I didn't want my old friends and family to have to be part of this journey. I basically said to all of them, I tweeted things out, I posted things and said, listen, this is my journey. I'm sorry. I know I've upset a lot of people, but I'm not going to stop. I would love it if you come with me, but I understand if you don't want to. And a few people came with me, and I said goodbye to a lot of friends and family, but I had to close those accounts because I felt like I was hurting people I didn't want to hurt. They don't have to be part of this. They don't have to see and hear these things. I mean, I know they could unfollow me, but you know how people are. Family doesn't want to click that button, so they made me do it. So now it's my Twitter family. Like I say that openly, proudly. I have a wonderful group of people from the secular world, some not. I mean, I talk to plenty of religious people on a regular basis because I also think that's important. When we talk about bridging gaps through cultures, I want to speak to religious people about what's going on. The problem is it's very rarely reciprocated. It's usually shut up about my religion. Don't say bad things. I don't want anything to do with it. you can't help people like that. But anybody who's open to the conversation, we're having just some wonderful conversations now. So yeah, Twitter is definitely the best way, at InfiDale3476. But I'll be doing more because, like you said, like this is new to me still, and I'm feeling like I have to get out there and talk more. If people want me to talk, if anybody wants to hear me, they can. Like I have no problem sharing anything. I have no secrets. I gave up a lot to become who I want to be, to become this version of me, and I'm just becoming that. I don't know, be all like, you know, butterfly-ish, but like I really
you're
do.
in the metamorphosis stage. It really shows.
I feel like right now I'm hitting my stride, and I'm very sorry to all of my old friends and family who we just can't communicate anymore for whatever reasons. But I'm here for my humanity family, like for everybody. So if I'm going to be helping 8 billion people, and you know 1,500 are going to be mad at me, plus all of those who want to kill me for saying these things, so be it. I know I'm doing the right thing, and I'll say this: it's a line my friends have heard me saying. It's one of my favorite lines, and it just fits perfectly here for who I am and what I'm doing. If anybody doesn't know, it's a line from a made-for-TV movie, but of the life of Jack Kevorkian, who was known as Dr. Death in the 90s, and he was helping euthanize people, put people to sleep who were very sick, very ill, and my country was telling them you can't take their lives. They can't take their own life. And they were hurting, and he stepped in and he started helping them. Well, for that, he ended up going to jail and spending the later years of his life behind bars for trying to help people who wanted help and begged for help and signed things. And so there was a line in the made-for-TV movie played by Al Pacino, so it makes it a little better. And his like manager, agent looked at him the day before his court date, his big court date, and he looks at him and he says, "Do you know what they're going to do to you if you go in there? They're going to fry you if you go in there." And Kevorkian's turned around, and he slowly turns around very calmly, and he looks at him and he says, "I know what they're going to do to me. And I don't care, because I'm right." And when I hear that and feel that, that's what I feel like every day now. I don't care if, like, and I mean this seriously, and I know who I'm talking to, and I know, you know, but that's part of the reason I want to connect with the ex-Muslim community so much, because, or the ex-Islamic community so much, because as bad as it is for people coming out of Christianity in America or Judaism, it's worse for people under Sharia. It was so much worse. So like it takes away the humanity, like we said, and I don't care what happens to me. And I mean that. When I watch what happened to Salman Rushdie, that's what we need. We don't need people stabbed in the face. We need people who are willing to put their life on the line, literally, because it doesn't matter, because we're right. We're doing the right thing for people and helping humanity. I love life. I really, like, I'm a happy-go-lucky person. I love life. Love life. I don't want to end this anytime soon. But if somebody wants to take my head because of fighting for the rights of my female friends, of my LGBTQ plus community friends, of my Muslim friends, or if I draw a picture of the Prophet, stupid to be his name, take my head. For real. Like, seriously, I don't want to give it up. I want to live. I love life, but I am willing to put my neck on the line because so many other people are being subjugated, and it's got to stop in the name of mythology. In the name of mythologies. It's ridiculous.
And superstition and all this weird crap.
Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's even if there was a real basis, a legitimate, logical, rational basis for killing humans, I don't think I'd be behind it. Like I've always said to people, I don't believe in God at all, the God concept. But if Yahweh, if Allah, whoever, showed up here and said, "Nope, I'm the God, you got to kill the gay people, you got to subjugate the women," I would tell them to go fuck themselves. And I'm sure it would be able to kill me, unless I had iron. I'm sure it would be able to kill me, but I don't care because I'm right. And I feel it so strongly that I'm willing to say whatever I feel is right.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely conveyed in the way you articulate it. And as I said, like, you could just see your passion oozing out of this. So it's good. It's really good. I once people get to this stage and that fire is ignited, I don't think there's any coming back from it. I mean,
this is the first time anybody's ever said they've seen me oozing, and it's beautiful. But thanks.
Yeah, no, like most YouTube activists who have like, you know, started speaking out against their religion, we always just say like it just becomes like this duty. You have to do it. It's this drive from within you that you can't rest at night knowing that this is out there existing, and it's so detrimental.
I can sleep when I do this.
Exactly.
I can sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I have a law degree to pursue, and I have a full day job, and I still try and fit this in at the expense of both of those things. And I'm like, what am I doing? But it's just an inner calling. You have to not neglect this mission in life.
The more people who do what we're trying to do, these type of things, because like I said, everybody has something to offer. So it can be, we're all different. We all have our own, you know, people who will or won't listen to us for whatever reason, things we bring to the table. The more people who do this, the more there will be who do this. And that's how you get rid of bad ideas. Is you come out, you know, I say this with, you know,
and you normalize challenging them.
Well, it's what happened. It's what happened and is happening with the LGBTQ plus community. It's not that gay people weren't around. It's not that atheists weren't around. It's not that trans people weren't around. It's just that we've all been subjugated and scared to come out and be who we are, whether it's, you know, sexuality, whether it's, you know, gender, whether it's a belief system or lack thereof. We should all be able to be who we are. But when being who you are makes other people want to kill you, it's a little difficult. So it's killing stigmas, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And okay, just to kind of take things towards the end now, I'm mindful of time. So I am going to just to pay homage to Gulzar, I'm going to just give you a couple of rapid fire questions. They're not like 1-word answers, but like 20-second answers.
Sure, okay.
If you want. But real quick, do you think Moses ever existed?
No.
Okay. What's your favorite miracle that Moses did?
My favorite miracle?
Yes.
I that's such a weird thing.
I know.
I don't know. You know, I want to say Moses did this, but he was part of it. I guess I'll go with the burning bush.
Okay, I love that one too.
If I have to pick one, but the only reason is because I'm a huge proponent of THC. And every night I burn a little bit of bush myself.
I've always wondered, was Moses burning some good bud that night that he saw God? It must be. Burning bush? Come on. That has got to be euphemism for... Anyway, so yeah, I love that. I would have answered the exact same thing. Okay.
I also want to say too,
parting the sea, that's kind of a big deal.
That's a crazy one, yeah.
Yeah. And also because when I lived in Saudi Arabia as well, like we're in the Red Sea, and I would be like, oh my God, this is a sea that Moses once part. It's ridiculous. There's
so many. How would you walk through it afterward? It's not, the ground's not wet?
God.
You would sink right through the bottom, right?
God fix it all up, Dale. God can take care of all of that.
Did he patch up all the sea life? The sea life is fine.
Any question you have, God has fixed it. Sea life, he fixed it all, Dale.
And have we found any of the chariots yet?
God hid them because he's testing you, Dale.
He hid them under the dinosaur bones?
Yeah, yes, because he's testing you about that too.
Fossils, not bones.
Yeah, fossils, exactly. But yeah, okay, where were we in the rapid fire? I had another, you can give a bit more than one word on this if you want to, but have you read the Quran, and what did you think, if you have, about what Muslim scripture says about Jews?
Mm-hmm. I have. I haven't read the entire Quran recently, but I do read bits and pieces here and there, and the Hadith as well. I don't have anything real specific about it other than you paint your enemies to be evil. And that's just the way the Jewish, like I said to you earlier, it's what the Jewish people did with their enemies in Mesopotamia. And it's what Christians today do with Jewish. I mean, you see Jewish people, it's not just Islam. Christians in my country can't stand Jewish people. It's the whole they possess the wealth, you know, that whole thing. as a kid, Jewish jokes was a normal part of my life, because whether you were Christian or Muslim, the Jews were somebody to be subjugated. And then Jewish people take it as, oh, we've been subjugated forever, since their religion wasn't the main one anymore. and they almost take that on as a pride thing. Like, we like being the underdog, like what happened with the Holocaust. It's like, but we've been hurt, we've been this. Yeah, well, because you're part of one of those religions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the problem is that at the end of the day, you are also peddling a narrative of superiority and the chosen people. And again, everything we see politically, if you really peel it back, it essentially comes down to, my imaginary God said that I'm meant to be here, and my imaginary God said that no, when we build this temple here, and it's what Christopher Hitchens was saying. They're all trying to usher in the end of the day, at the end of days. Now, they're trying to bring it in as soon as possible in this war for their imaginary friend, and it's just it's a shambles.
Yeah, in the
humanitarian, it's a crisis either way.
In Christianity, there's the whole book, Revelation. It's literally about the end of times, where Jesus is going to come kill everybody. People get mad at me when I say that, because it doesn't say Jesus will kill anybody, but he's going to come back to usher in the end of times, where then there will be hell on earth for 1,000 years, and everybody will suffer, and the good people will shoot up into the sky, and the bad people will go into the ground. Okay, so he's having henchmen kill us. Is he any better? Stop, for not worshiping him. That's like what my rabbi did, right? Jewish guy killing people for not doing what he wants. Ugh.
Yeah, and in Islam, we've got the whole Antichrist concept as well. This one-eyed monster is going to be there, and he's going to test you, but you need to realize that he's tested. It's so morbid and twisted and dark. Like, as a child, they would teach me this in like Islamic studies in school in the UAE, because I went to school there. But you were like a 15-year-old child thinking, how am I going to not be fooled by the one-eyed Antichrist? That's not a thought somebody should be having. Like, I should literally just be focusing on normal education. This is ridiculous. And then when they're not doing that, they're showing you videos of jinn possessions, so like actual exorcisms and possessions, casually in class. I was scared out of my wits. It was horrible. But
when you think that can be a real thing, we're talking about like possession. You said jinn, demons, whatever you want to call that whole demonic possession thing.
Yeah.
If you think that can be real, and you have somebody you don't like who's saying things that are something you don't like, and I've seen this in my own life. The religion, Christianity at least, teaches them, they're naysayers. Don't listen to people who are saying something against your God. They are evil. They are possessed. They are demons. They are devils. Well, if you believe in those things, you can then dehumanize the person to the point where that's a devil. That's a demon. I'm not going to listen to them or give them any credit for anything. So then ideas can't even get through, because who would listen to a demon or a devil? But there's no such thing as demons or devils, so it doesn't matter. It should be irrelevant. And we should talk to each other like humans.
Exactly. No, and brilliant words to end on, I think. But anyway, we are mindful of the time. I think if I do remember it, I will come back. Oh yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to just end with just an acknowledgement of the fact that obviously some of the points that I've raised tonight in this conversation as well were very much pertaining to like quite Orthodox Judaism. And I'm just trying to like make the link to like actual dogmatic religion and what happens when you follow it like to the letter, to the T. And that's exactly what happens in the case of Hasidic Jews. Like, we see what happens with actual Islamists. So I was trying to draw that parallel. But I want to say, for the most part, like most Jewish people that I've come across or that I know, or reformist Jews or whoever, they have actually done, as you were mentioning, Dale, earlier, that a lot of Christians do. They have said, we're not going to follow all of this word for word. It's almost like the ideal that people think about when they talk about trying to reform Islam. It is reading the text, absorbing it, and saying, literally, we're not going to do any of that. We just kind of culturally will have some ceremonial things going on. Yeah, okay, you all need to be circumcised still. We'll still sacrifice a goat for Eid. We'll still do these kind of things. But, the beheadings and the stonings, that stuff can like take a chill pill. Like, we will just, so am I correct in saying that, Dale? Like, for the most part, that's
I think that's most. Yeah, I think that's most humans, regardless of the religion. In 2022, humanity has evolved, believe it or not, or I'm sorry, understand it or not, humanity has evolved.
Yes.
And we're at a place where you really have to shut out everything that we know and understand about the universe in order to still believe in those books completely, to still do the barbaric things. But we're tribal by nature, and tradition and family and connection, it's all entangled with the culture of religions, and people just have trouble letting that go. I get it. Like I understand why it's so difficult. I just think that means we need more of us to try harder.
Yeah, no, touche. Again, very, very brilliantly put. So yeah, I think that's a perfect place to end it. Thank you. Gulzar is in the house. Gulzar is actually the reason that Dale and I were first introduced to each other. So a massive shout out to Gulzar. As I said, he's doing fabulous work in the ex-Muslim community and the Urdu scene. Also going straight up to those imams and muftis and challenging them head on, putting them in really like tight spots. And
is there any chance that Muhammad Hijab's watching this or no? I got to learn who he was on Gulzar's program. That was fun.
Oh, I'm surprised you've had the pleasure to stay clear of him this whole time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do my best to stay clear of him. But yeah, I had I saw your reactions and I was like, yep, exactly what I'd imagined. I'm sure Gulzar showed you though. I'm glad he showed you what we're dealing with.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. And I think it's important for people to see it. So now I'm sharing this kind of stuff, with my community on my spaces, on the other things I do, and it's kind of why we started out with why I'm here. I'm nobody special, but what I am, I don't know if you want to call it special, but what is different about me is that I'm willing to do it. That's it. Like it's, and because the ex-Muslim, ex-Islamic community has it so much harder, I really think we need to express to the Western world, just in general, how much they need to be there for people, to help people, because they're other humans. And they were trapped in this religion just like you were in yours, but they risk losing their head to get out. You risk losing some friends. And, it's just a different, in some places, it's just a completely different thing. But, I just wanted to add that Gulzar has been a wonderful, wonderful friend. I haven't known him a crazy long time. But I will say, just straight up, I see, and I'm going to use a metaphor here. I'm a very literal person, but so much heart in that person. And he cares. I mean, it's brain, but so much care, so much compassion for humanity. And when I see that same thing in other people, what does it matter if we're from different backgrounds? What does it matter if we have different levels of knowledge? If we care about humanity and we're trying to help, and we see the evils done by these religions to humanity, we can work together. Like, so that's kind of it. Like he reached out to me and said, hey, can you, do this? I want to reach out to other people and do the same.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful, and it's a beautiful kind of byproduct of this movement that we've got going here on YouTube and on Twitter and on the wider kind of social media spaces. Somebody like Gulzar is, I mean, he's very well poised to kind of connect people, and he's so, again, as I was saying to you, like the sheer passion and dedication that I see, it emanates from Gulzar. He spends, I think, every waking moment of his life that he's not doing something else dedicated to this movement. He really, really is. So yeah, and it's only because of that like we're able to come together and, as your tweet said, like build bridges. So if you come from a background, albeit different to mine, we, at the end of the day, we have both left a way of thinking that was like enforced on us. We were told it was the only way, it was the right way, it was the way to secure a perfect afterlife, it was everything. And I mean, that has
a perfect what?
Afterlife.
Death,
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, they really, I mean, I know people who genuinely are just writing this life out and waiting for the next one, and it breaks my heart. It really, really does.
That next wave is never coming. And like you said, it's not that I'm like, because people will see my I joke a lot, so I turn things into like humor, and sometimes it seems like I'm making fun of people. Well, I am, but I mean, sometimes I'm making fun of ideas, but sometimes it feels like I'm going hard and I'm angry. Well, I am a little angry, because of what these things have done to my friends and people I care about, family. But my main thing is not anger, it's compassion. So like the anger comes from my passion, my compassion for humanity. I'm angry that decent people are having such a hard time at life because of things that just aren't necessary. So you'll see me get angry. You'll hear me. I like using this phrase. It actually came from. Can I tell a quick story? Do we have a minute?
Go for it. Yeah.
Another story I love, and it's also, this is a good way to explain how different people can offer different things and communicate in different ways. At a scientific conference over a decade ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson was speaking to Richard Dawkins, and he said to him basically, and I'll be paraphrasing, he said, you have such a big community, and you're so influential, and you're so intelligent, you have such a great message, but I feel that you're so articulately barbed with your words that sometimes your message doesn't get through. And if anybody knows Richard Dawkins, he is extremely articulately barbed. He's like, this is how it is, take it or leave it. So Neil said, I just wish, I think you could have such a bigger audience if you just, teaching isn't just spitting out facts and saying, take it or leave it. Teaching is, giving those facts in a story in a way that you can communicate, finding a way that you can get through to the person, and then sharing it with them on a level that, you have some type of back and forth. Like I mentioned earlier, the Socratic method, just, talking to each other and understanding things, not just spitting out facts.
Not challenging as well. Yeah.
Right. And Richard Dawkins looked back in the most adorable, I love his accent, by the way. Literally. I love his accent.
Literally. He speaks the Queen's English.
Whose?
The late Queen's English, the King's English now.
It was a funny day. For that, not a funny day.
No.
But so he looks at him and he says, you're so articulately barbed, I just feel like you're not getting your message across to the same amount of people you should. And Richard Dawkins looked up at him and he said, I gratefully accept the rebuke. And it was a hilarious moment. But that being said, it made me think, like, I am a lot like Richard Dawkins in some ways. But I also want to be a little Neil deGrasse Tyson because I do care and I want to get my message across. And you'll never hear Neil talk about his, he is atheist. He won't say that. He is, for all intent and purposes, by definition, he is.
Yeah.
He won't say that because he doesn't want to alienate his crowd. And I get that. And I appreciate that. But I also appreciate Richard Dawkins being articulately barbed and saying, no, that's not true, you idiot. Or how about, what if you're wrong? Talking about, a God, and somebody, a audience member challenged him, and what if you're wrong? And he went into this long speech. You could say that to anybody. So he is articulately barbed, but that type of message gets through to some people, and some people need a hug, and some people need I was going to say something violent. Some people need a hug, and some people need a metaphorical bat over the head, like a wake up signal. And I think a lot of my articulately barbed, aimed tweets are at those people. Like, it's not that I'm angry. It's some people can't get it unless you make them uncomfortable, unless you make them think in a way that they've never thought before. So that's kind of what I do. It's not anger. It's, I want you to hear me. And these are the ways I think that I can. So my message may not get through to as many people. I've had people say, if you soften it up, you'll get through to so many more people. And they're right. But I won't get through as well with the people I do. Like, that's how I feel. Like, this is my way. And that's why that Spaces I do on Thursday nights, by the way, is wonderful, because Zaylin is very different than me in that way. It's that Spaces is almost like a secular hug session. And that's why I love it so much.
I was going to ask, is it like bad cop, good cop then? Or
No.
Okay.
No. She's great and she's brilliant. And we just come at things different ways. But I'm a lot more happy-go-lucky in there. Because it's a moment for that. We even, at the end of it, not every time, but a lot of times we end it with a breathing session, like a reflective mindfulness 10-minute breathing session. And anybody who knows me hears that and goes, yeah, right. I meditate. Like, I genuinely do. And people think I don't because you get this. But when it's not marijuana, it is meditation or both.
Yeah. Well, that is a wonderful combination. But yeah, no, I think that's great. People should definitely engage with you more. I would ask people who genuinely have had an experience or, doubts at any point in their life, or they've taken this life step completely to actually engage in these Twitter spaces, because they really are safe spaces. I mean,
It
you
is.
can just be sitting in the comfort of your home, you put your mic on, and you can honestly be connecting with like-minded people that you wouldn't even have imagined of.
And for anybody who doesn't know, you don't have to speak.
You could just listen.
Most of the people just listen. You come into a spaces, and you can request a microphone if you'd like to speak. If not, you don't. You can request a microphone and just say, "I just wanted to say hi. I'm here to listen," and never speak again. So there's no pressure on people. It's a very laid back, just sharing. Like that's what all this is about, right? It's just a different level of it. Sharing who we are and our stories, and saying, hey, we're people too. Like, just a lack of belief doesn't make you a bad person. And it's sad that we have to say that in 2022, but we do.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I have to reiterate it almost at the beginning of every video that I upload. But I do honestly want to say that it is so like it's invigorating and motivating to see more and more people come out. And honestly, I'm very happy that I was able to have you on here and kind of give you a chance to project your voice here. And obviously, as you said, like, you've kind of delved into this activism more over the last, let's say, 11 months, and then even up until then there was a long break, and then only 4 months ago you did a podcast. But you have your own style, and you bring your own kind of personality and your own niche and your own way of tackling this and engaging with your people and engaging with believers. And you will find as you go on, everybody does have their own niche. And I mean, the best way to go about that is your own platform. And that's why I think, it's a good way to stay in control of the way you like to kind of portray your message. But as I said, like, your passion for this is contagious. And I think the Twitter spaces are a great place to start. But I think you should definitely consider maybe even starting a YouTube channel at some point later, or whatever. But yeah, definitely.
I don't have much of a choice. That will be coming soon. I don't want to
amazing.
That won't be that's not something that I want to advertise, because I don't have. I have set it up, quote unquote, but I have no material. I haven't done anything yet, and don't even know exactly which direction I want to head. But I like talking.
In due course,
yeah. I like talking, so that will probably be next or soon. Yeah.
Okay, fab. So anyway, we'll definitely do something then, and I'll definitely give everybody a heads up on where they can find you and how they can find you when that's all kind of ready to go. But yeah, sorry, I have taken 2 hours of your time. I promised an hour and a half. I'm so sorry.
No, all good.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
When I start talking about this stuff, I went with Gulzar. I went 3 hours and 40 minutes, and we were supposed to be 2 hours.
I know, and I realized that I didn't want this to be. I wanted this to be like, well, I will promise to stay mindful of time.
We just went for 2 full hours, and we're still an hour and 40 minutes short of that, so I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, perfect. I also want to say Metalhead sent a super chat. Thank you so much for your support, and I really hope you enjoyed the chat today. Gulzar, thank you for stopping by, and thank you for setting this up effectively. And John Stopman as well became a YouTube member, so thank you very much, John. Obviously, always modding and always there, taking care of the channel, so thank you. But yeah, did you want to say anything else, Dale, before we head out?
No, I don't have a speech to give. I think I've said everything I have to say. But just the most important thing, if I can relay one short message,
sure,
is pretty much just my way here was when I started caring about my own personal education. No higher learning for me. I always say YouTube University proudly. Like, I started training myself on YouTube, and I got into, we didn't talk too much about the sciences, but I got into evolution and into astronomy and then into physics. And it's, I hate sounding like a QAnon conspiracy theorist person here, but it's all connected. It really is. Everything is connected. And when you start seeing those things and you become a little more knowledgeable, and you don't have to be well versed in any of these things, just to know a little bit about each, you just see how silly all of it is. And, like you said, and I guess reiterating what you said, it would all be so silly. It would be funny and goofy and silly if innocent people weren't being hurt in the name of these gods and deities and things that we believe despite an absence of evidence. And when I say that phrase, that's what faith is to me. People are always very proud of their faith. What faith in a religious context is to me is the belief in something despite an absence of evidence. And I think, that should be the complete opposite. It should be the contrary. You believe in something, you hold off belief until there is enough evidence, and then you believe. So yeah, that's my message. It's don't be willing to believe anything, no matter who tells you, no matter where it comes from. It's belief, faith. It's not knowledge, and it's not necessary. That's it. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. And that is, I think, a beautiful ending. Sorry, I also wanted to give a shout out to Josie Wales, who became a member. I'm just trying to, oh, here we go. You became a member a lot earlier. Sorry, we got carried away in conversation. Thank you so much, Josie Wales. You are always there and always supporting, and I find myself largely in agreement with you. But yeah, Dale, I'd like to thank you so much. I will be, hopefully, I'm going to find some time and I will join one of these Twitter spaces. I really, really kind of want to engage and see the kind of stories and the back and forth that's happening there.
We also, just to let you know too, because sometimes they're recorded and sometimes they're not, because we will have unrecorded ones for people who don't want to be recorded, because with leaving the religions, for some people that's important. However, the ones we do record, like we did last night, are there for anyone to listen to on my timeline on Twitter.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Yeah, that's brilliant. So, and is it once a week, did you say?
That's once a week on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Daylight Time. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah. So, no, I will definitely love to tune in, and I'll catch you there, maybe one of your spaces. And I would encourage everybody who is listening or watching, and if you are active on Twitter or if you aren't, this is honestly a safe space if you are interested in secular humanism, religion, challenging beliefs, rationality, science. I mean, it's all happening here. And as Dale said, you are not obligated to interact and to speak. You will not be put on the spot. You can literally just listen and absorb. And if you feel like you connect with anything that's being said, you can request to speak. And I'm sure Dale and the other hosts would be more than happy. And again, you can DM Dale directly if you do want to share your story. And then, you guys can figure out a time.
We can. And that's the other thing too. We have people sharing their stories just to come on and talk for 1 minute, or people for, full spaces, that want to be a guest for whatever reason. My DMs are open. And I say that to everybody. I can't promise I will get to it right away, because I am a little overloaded right now, but I love this so much. If you DM me and they are open, I will eventually get back to you.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. And sorry, Dale, I'm just going to give a 2-minute little speech, which is so unrelated, but I feel like I should say something, obviously, because in England, we've obviously, and everywhere in the world, we've had the news that obviously Queen Elizabeth II has passed away. And it's just been, obviously, it's weird, because I mean, that I, even as a British citizen, like, that's the only thing I've known in my entire lifetime is her as the Queen. So of my parents, so of my grandparents, essentially. But yeah, so I just want to say, like, obviously, my deepest condolences to everybody who genuinely is a royalist and the royal family themselves. I cannot say that I'm the most hardcore royalist, but I understand the human experience of death and loss and what it means to a family or to anybody who loses somebody near and dear, and that's a real human experience, and it's a part of life, and it's extremely tragic and unfortunate and traumatic. And you don't want to be adding to anybody's pain in a time like this. She was very much dedicated to her role. I think as in terms of public duty, she did everything. I mean, to be that many years old and still 2 days before you pass away, you're inaugurating the new prime minister, and you're still showing up, and you're still like, she still looked good up until 2 days ago. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have envisioned this at all. But I just want to say that while I do acknowledge, obviously, that the royal family are far from perfect, and it's extremely problematic, and why I might not even agree with them as a concept in this day and age, that doesn't take away from the fact that there is a son out there mourning his mother, and there's a grandchild mourning his grandmother, and I know what those things feel like. So I have seen certain tweets. So, yeah, sorry, just one second.
I want to
Yeah.
chime into what you're saying for one second. I'm sorry, but like, because I just connected that with, it really is the same thing with the religious stuff. Like, just because I don't agree with the royal family, and just because I don't agree with Islam and Christianity, doesn't mean I can't feel pain for someone, for if an Islamic leader died, because they have family, because they're humans. You can still care about the person and the person experience, just like you were saying, because that's humanity. It's putting humanity over God. It's putting humanity over royalty. It's just putting humanity first is what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So as I said, like I'm not going to sit here and defend the royal family at all. I have as many qualms with them as the next person. I have insane questions about Prince Andrew and why he was bailed out on taxpayers' money. I've got there's questions about everything: the imperialist agenda, colonization, neo-Nazi sympathizing, stealing diamonds from India that are in your crown today. Like there were so many things, right? But we're just not going to go there because at this point, somebody has died. Exactly. And you respect that enough to allow for that period of mourning without bringing out everything, I don't have to go out of my way to also show that I care, because, I'm being true to myself, and I respect that this is something, it's a part of human life, but real people are experiencing real emotion right now, and I should be empathetic about that. But at the same time, again, I could not resist when I went on Twitter and I just saw Muslims taking advantage of this situation, whereby they're basically trying to say that she took the shahada on her deathbed, or she's either rotting in hell, or that she actually did say that Islam was the truth and now she's just weird things and conspiracies about how she's related to Prophet Muhammad, or how they don't give a crap about her because she was not Muslim and she was a non-believer and she's burning in hell right now.
Yeah, not one of us.
Exactly. And I just think, I mean, either way, if this was to be the tables turned, you also death is not the opportunity to jump at somebody's loss and use that as a trope.
She was also born into that. I mean,
it's true.
It's a weird thing to me. You don't know that she wanted to be the queen. You don't know that she thrived on that, but she took her responsibilities and did her duties. And it's a very much shoe on, put your feet in my shoes kind of thing. It's like, how do you know how you would be if you were born in a different place under a different situation? So it really is. It's just humanity. I love when I hear this, because you don't have to agree with everything about somebody to care about the human.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, and the human lived experience part of it. Like, sure, there's so much I could disagree with and I could bring up here, but the fact is, when somebody's experiencing death, I mean, death is death in itself. That those are real human experiences that should not be trivialized or used as a trope to kind of forward your agenda or make a cheap point or have a cheap shot. So, yeah, it's been insane seeing Twitter memes, it's always going to be a thing. But when I see that, to try and one of the tweets I shared earlier was, every time the Queen was in a scarf, Muslim Twitter has gone and said, wow, mashallah, look at the way she used to adorn hijab. And it's like, come on now.
Why couldn't it be really?
Why couldn't it be a freaking tablecloth that she decided to put on her head and try a new style, mate? It could be anything. Come on. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that obviously we are in 10 days of mourning as a nation, whether you agree with it or not. The fact is, somebody's mother or grandmother has died at the end of the day, and we should be mindful of that and just be, as Dale said earlier, it's just empathy, right? We should just be more human to each other. And I think that's the biggest strength that we have, and that is more powerful than any words in any ancient text could ever be. But yeah, having said that, I think we can wrap this up. Super awesome film sent a super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who's been here today with us. I hope you enjoyed the chat. We kind of just free-falled it, went from Islam, Judaism, Dale's story, passion.
Can we say freestyle instead of free fall?
Freestyled it. We freestyled it. That's the word. Sorry. But yeah, Dale, thank you so much. And let's do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. And thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Till tomorrow. I'm actually doing an impromptu stream at 12 p.m. GMT time. We're going to be talking about Salman Rushdie. We're going to be talking about the Celebrating Dissent conference in Germany that I attended, and Islam and Christianity and all those good things. And then Sunday's Scoop will resume as normal. So yeah, I'll see you guys all this weekend. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Take care.